Welcome, everyone, to the Science of Sport virtual field trip. My name is Darren Heaton. I am with the Science of Sport, and we are going to continue our virtual field trips today with Juan Garciga. And he is the Youth Academy Director at the Texas Rangers. Welcome, Juan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. So tell us a little bit about your position and what you do at the Rangers.
Sure. So I've been in this capacity with the Texas Rangers, serving as the Youth Academy Director for 3.5 years now. It's an opportunity to run a multi-million-dollar facility with 6 fields, indoor field, classroom space, and just really put together programming that's both educational and a good experience for athletes ages 7 to 18. And really what our facility is about is creating opportunities and providing a safe environment and a fun environment for kids to play baseball and softball at no cost to the parents. So it's really an opportunity for kids to get better and have a good time. And that's really what the facility and my role as the director is truly about.
Awesome. That's really cool, Juan. And again, like our goal for these virtual field trips is really to expose youth to different opportunities within sports and STEM. So I think being able to hear from you and your background and your experience with working in sports will be really extremely valuable for the students. And so we want to thank you for joining. We want to thank all of the students, those that are participating at your Rangers Academy, but also at the MLB Compton and New Orleans academies as well. Can you speak a little bit about the overall goal for the MLB Urban Youth Academies?
Sorry, you cut out there. Could you go one more time, Darren? Sorry.
Yeah. I was really hoping to get a little bit more broader information on the MLB Urban Youth Academies as a whole.
Yeah, so the Youth Academy program actually started out on the West Coast in Compton, and Major League Baseball saw the tremendous value that it created for young people and athletes and kind of motivated other clubs to join in the project. And so over the years, multiple youth academies, both directed by Major League Baseball as well as some club run academies, have kind of joined the process. And now, we're in double digits as far as the number of academies across the country. The Rangers Youth Academy became fully operational in 2018. And again, I was fortunate enough to be handed over the keys to the facility very shortly after the ribbon cutting ceremony. So again, it's one of those things that Major League Baseball saw value in creating opportunities and creating new baseball fans, and most importantly, trying to increase the number of young people playing baseball and softball in underserved communities, and specifically in the Black and brown communities.
Yeah, and especially it's a really well-rounded facility. It's the athletic components, but it's also the academic components, and that's one thing that I love about the UIAs throughout the country, and especially yours. Your guys' facility is top notch, and especially with how hot it is, you have an amazing indoor facility, which stays pretty cool. So thank you again just for giving a little bit bigger picture on the Youth Academy front. But let's talk a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Can you walk us through what a typical day looks like?
Yeah, typical day, there really isn't one. It's almost like you have to break it down by season. Now during the summer months is what most people would consider our peak season. We're offering a summer camp style training program in the mornings where, again, our role is making sure that we have sufficient staff and quality coaches in place. Most of the coaches that work at our facility are former college or professional coach / baseball and softball players. And that's something that's important to us. We want to make sure that we're offering high level training, despite the fact that, it's not necessarily a place where you have to go and spend $70 an hour to get that instruction. You can get high level and quality instruction here at the facility. And that's something that's important to us. So a typical day is, our coaches will arrive early and make sure that, we go over the practice plan for that day, and then they go out and are able to implement it with the shell of what we want to accomplish, but giving them a lot of creative freedom to adjust based on the number of kids and the skill level of kids that arrive. And then The back end of the summer evenings is typically focused on our RBI season. So we run league play for the Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities program for kids ages 13 to 18, both in baseball and softball. And at the facility, Monday through Thursday, there's games happening on every field. And then all day Saturday from 9 a.m. until typically around 8 o'clock at night, there's games happening again on all 4 fields, both baseball and softball. The other elements of the job is obviously communicating with some of our other Rangers departments. So whether that's in our communications department for any media that may want to come out and cover certain events, or again, just share the messaging so that people in the community are aware that the facility is in place and what programs we're offering. And then it's working with our corporate partnerships department. A lot of times there's organizations that are looking to support these type of programs and trying to work with them to find ways that make sense for them to be a true partner, not just necessarily make a financial gift. So we've been fortunate enough to have partners like Whataburger and Nike and Comerica Bank and a lot of different organizations, and trying to figure out ways that make sense to partner with them in a way that's going to get them excited to want to give more money so we can do more stuff. So just tomorrow, we'll actually have Comerica Bank partnering with us to do a back-to-school distribution where they're going to support us in providing school supplies, backpacks, and everything that kids are going to need to get back to school. But then in addition, they want to do something higher level and something that would be really special. So they're actually funding a trip for us to take a group of athletes to Kansas City, to the Negro Leagues Museum, and to visit the Kansas City Youth Academy, where we'll play a doubleheader exhibition game against them. We'll visit the Negro Leagues Museum and then also visit a Royals game. So again, it's really cool. Some of the unique things that I get to do and try and work with the different departments within the organization to elevate the profile of the facility, but also make sure that there's a lot of cool and engaging things that our kids will get to do through the relationships we build here at the Rangers.
Yeah, Juan, and that trip sounds awesome and a really cool initiative. And we had the Negro League Museum on for our first virtual field trip, and it was cool to be able to get to see inside the museum, hear all about the history. And so for those students that do go, that's gonna be awesome. A lot of fun. And you talked about all the different departments that are within sports, and this is all about exposure. And I want to be able to communicate that there are plenty of opportunities to work in sports that are not necessarily focused around playing the sport. And so you talked about communications, you talked about corporate sponsorship. What are some other opportunities that are out there within the front office of the sports world?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten an opportunity to work with, again, departments throughout this organization and in my path to the big leagues. Again, there's opportunity. We're hosting our RBI day where I need to coordinate with our tickets department to make sure we get some complimentary tickets for our athletes, but then also try and find some plans and programs for additional tickets that friends and family can purchase. I've had an opportunity to go on air and work with our broadcasting department and talk about, again, the Youth Academy and some of our programs, during a Rangers game, which was a real treat for me because, the opportunity to go live during a Rangers game and share the messaging to a broad audience was something that was really special for me and I was excited to do. But again, there's just so many different jobs you can have. Prior to my role here with the Rangers focusing exclusively on youth baseball, I actually served as our player relations manager for another club in Miami. So I worked with the Miami Marlins as the player relations manager, and that job was unique in that I was the primary point of contact for any requests of the Major League Baseball players. So that meant anything that wasn't an interview or media request. So if they had to do any kind of appearances, autograph signings, pregame ceremonies, if they wanted to do any kind of work in the charity and philanthropy space, all that communication would go through myself, and then I'd work with each individual player to make it work and make sense. So that was something that was really cool and a great experience to do for a number of years. Again, working with the big league guys and building those relationships. But at the end of the day, what I was most passionate about and excited to do long-term was working in the youth baseball space, helping young people and being in the role that I'm in now was always the end goal once I visited my first youth academy, which was the Cincinnati Reds Youth Academy. I had an opportunity to visit them during the World Series, the RBI World Series. And just walking around the facility, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I need to be doing. This is what I want to be doing. And thankfully, the Rangers gave me that opportunity a few years ago. And also for any of the young athletes watching right now, if you guys have questions, please put them in the comments in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them as we go along. I know me and Darren are going to be chatting back and forth and trying to get to those questions. But if you have questions, go ahead and fire them away. You don't have to wait till the end.
Yeah, exactly. Throw them into the chat, and we'll throw them up just like this. But let's talk a little bit about your background in education and some of the skills that are important to have within your role. So where did you go to school at?
So I went to high school at Miami Senior High. I'm from South Florida, but then I went to college at Florida State University, which is in the capital of Florida in Tallahassee, and I was there for 5 years. And then after that, I actually went to the University of Miami back home for grad school, and got my master's at University of Miami. But the time at Florida State was very, very special. I always tell people, young people that are thinking about going to college, that college is not just a great opportunity for people who know what they want to do, but it's a great way to find out what you don't want to do as well. So you don't have to go in knowing that you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a dentist. You can go in and not necessarily have a plan and figure it out as you go by taking and exploring a lot of different classes and figuring out what gets you excited. I specifically went into college as just a business major, but always felt like I wanted to do something in sports. And the reason I was there 5 years instead of 4 was because I added sport management as a second major going into my senior year. I just made the decision, like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I'm going to give it my best shot. And my rationale for that was, many adults change career paths, later in life anyways. Why not just make a decision, now instead of waiting 5-10 years to give it a shot? And so it was the best decision I ever made. It was an opportunity to really learn from a lot of people and build some connections and network. And as far as one of the big things to learn that's just universal for any job that you're going to do is the ability to communicate. And every time you have an interview, one of the biggest things that's going to make you stand out is how well can you deliver a message? How well can you sell yourself? And for people who are shy or nervous about talking in front of people or talking in front of a camera, there's really a lot of different things you can do to help yourself with that. I myself took an acting class when I was in college. I wasn't going to become an actor, but I took an acting class. I took a theater class. I took things that would help me be very comfortable with speaking in front of people and just, not getting nervous. And so doing things that maybe are a little bit out of your comfort zone at a young age will just help you grow. It's like practice. You don't practice the stuff that you're good at. You want to practice the things that you're not good at. You don't want to skip the math homework because it's hard. You want to do extra math homework because it's hard.
And that is a great message to reiterate. And I will say that you are excellent karaoke singer. So I don't really believe that you took an acting class. I believe that you took a singing class because you can hit the high notes. So, but we'll save that discussion for another time.
The karaoke stuff came post college. A video game called Rock Band kind of lit that flame, and then I pursued those avenues afterwards. But again, the acting class did help with being comfortable getting in front of people, and so I found a hidden talent in my later years that I did not have in my younger years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, though. It's like we're all not everyone is perfect at everything, and you have to be okay with failure, and putting yourself in those situations really to be challenged. And so I say that in the sense that is important for whatever field that a student may be going into, whether you're going to be trying to become a professional softball or baseball player, or just within STEM, learning about the math and the sciences. And you talked a lot about the different opportunities that are available in sports and just like ticket sales, for instance. The understanding that math and science applies to just about everything is something that I wanted to mention, and a skill set that's important across the board. And you use math within ticket sales when you're selling tickets. How many tickets are available in the ballpark? And so I just wanted to kind of mention that and make the connection, hopefully, to some students that, these are important skills that will apply to your career and your life down the road, regardless. And so, for our program with you, it's cool that we're able to use the sport within baseball in the context of the Rangers and help students to be able to improve their math or improve their science, because now they're looking at, batting averages or fielding percentages, but it's in the context of, their favorite player.
Yeah. And from a mathematics standpoint, in the role that I'm in, I'm overseeing a budget that's hundreds of thousands of dollars and trying to forecast, where some of the expenses are going to be, scheduling, certain coaches' hours, planning on how much money I have to distribute for equipment versus certain programs. And, having a strong grasp of the mathematics involved there. It's important when you have corporations, individual donors making financial gifts. You want to try to maximize the output and being able to, again, make sure that you stretch that dollar and maximize it by proper planning and a full understanding and scope of the numbers is important for this role.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone likes money, right? So growing the numbers will help exponentially down the road. But what advice do you have for some of these kids? And let's talk about it in terms of like the immediate future once they're going into high school, and then what advice do you have for someone that's an elite player that's looking to get to that next level?
Sure. So from I guess the student aspect, I'll be straightforward in saying that I really struggled in middle school and was not necessarily the best student across all subjects, but for whatever reason, something really clicked in high school where I made a real concerted effort in saying, I want to take the same winning mentality of wanting to be the best on the field. I wanted to be the best in the classroom. So I started being very competitive in the classroom. And even though I discovered, science was not my best subject, it was like my vegetables. I knew I had to do just enough or eat just enough vegetables to where, I could, leave the rest on the plate and still get away with it. But then I made sure that the classes that I was good at, I was the best at, to kind of balance it out and make sure that my grades overall were at a level where it gave me the best chance to go to a college that I really wanted to go to, or play for a school that I really wanted to play for. And again, the school element and taking that sense of a competition, how people compete with their friends, whether it's on the field or in video games, you want to win. If you take that same mentality into the classroom and almost treat it like you're competing, with your friends and your classmates and with yourself and wanting to be the best, that's going to really put you in a position where you're going to have some more opportunities. And for me, what was exciting was, come senior year, I was able to choose where I wanted to go to school versus I had friends who they didn't really have a choice. It was like they could go to the one place that they were accepted to instead of being able to have a choice and go where it makes the most sense for you, for what you want to study. I had the experience of being able to go away to college, which was a lot of fun. And again, for those athletes that think they want to play at the next level, you may not realize how important having the grades are, but I played high school baseball with a lot of really good baseball players who did not get to play college baseball because they didn't have the grades. And more importantly, or from a different avenue, if you're like, well, I'm not gonna go to college, I'm gonna go straight to the pros. There's a lot of players who get drafted and then the teams offer them the minimum they can get offered because they know they don't have a choice, versus a player who, if they know they have a scholarship to a major program, that player may get offered $1 million without having ever played a single inning of professional baseball. So again, having those grades are worth actual money. They're worth scholarship money for school. And if you're going to play professionally, they're worth actual dollars. So every time you get an A, think about that's a paycheck. You're just not going to see it for a couple of years, but there's actual dollars involved. And, when I went to college, I had my school paid for because of the grades I got. And I had other friends who they had to start paying money that I didn't have to pay because they didn't do what they needed to do, in high school to take care of their grades.
Yeah, you gotta spend the time, and it's kind of going back to what you were saying earlier about putting yourself in those situations that you're going to do the hard things first. For me, like that applies to just my mornings on a daily routine. You're supposed to eat the frog, I believe is the phrase. And so doing the hardest things first is going to be the best position in order to set your day up, because you're tackling the hardest possible thing very first, knowing that the rest of the day, everything else is going to be a little bit easier. And I just say that in the sense that I want to go back to the point. Don't be afraid to fail, and don't be afraid to put yourself in situations that are going to be challenging, and know that they're going to be helping in the long run, whether it's grades, whether it's your job, whether any adversity that you may have dealt with.
So Darren, to that point of doing the hard stuff first, and it was something that I was able to do in high school and in college, is you want to really put in the extra work your first year of high school, your first year of middle school, your first year of college, so that it only gets easier. I was in a situation, again, I say it almost jokingly, but in college, my GPA went down after each year, but that's only because my freshman year, I finished with a 4.0. And that's because I really said, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to be focused so that I can start off at a high note. And then if it, tails off because it gets harder later, it's okay because I set myself up. Whereas if you start low, now you're climbing uphill. It's a lot easier to walk downstairs or walk down a hill than it is to go up the stairs or up a big hill. So you want to make sure that when you get there, you focus and you try and get yourself at the highest level. That way, if you're starting at the top of the mountain, it's not as daunting a task to ease your way down if you need to, or stay up there, versus having to work up that hill.
Yeah, that's excellent. And what are some of the common skills? I mean, you see a lot of players at the facility, and a lot of elite athletes, some of the best. And so what are some of the common skills and work ethic that you see from some of those elite players?
To your point, there's a lot of really talented players. The things that I notice, and some people may not believe me, but I will always make a note or see how people respond to failure, because that's really how you're going to know how that player is going to respond, because a lot of the really elite players are always used to being the best player on their teams or always having success. You want to see how they're going to react that first time that they fail, because other players have dealt with failure. So you have an idea. But when I see a player who, shouts out profanity after they strike out, or throws their helmet, or isn't running hard. Like when I see a player hit a fly ball and by the time it's caught, they're almost standing on second base, that gets me excited. That means it's a player that's going to give you maximum effort all the time, no matter the situation. And those are those little things that can really separate you, because, again, the closer you get to the top, everybody's good. The little things are what help separate the good players from the great players. Players that are coachable, players who, when you talk to them, they're not looking around and just waiting for you to finish, but actually listening to what you're saying with an intention to put it into practice. When a player's, if you tell someone, hey, this player is coachable, this player is a great teammate, that goes a long way when talking to another coach or a college, because they already made their own evaluation of the player as a player. A lot of times they want to know what kind of person they are. How hard do they work? Are they easy to be around? Are they going to be a good teammate? Are they going to bring a good attitude to the program? So, a lot of players think that it's just about the numbers and what they do from a performance standpoint, but effort and attitude really make a big difference in how a player is viewed, for the next level. And I can't tell you, nobody ever asks me about a player's batting average or about their ERA for the pitchers. They always ask me about those things that they can't see, specifically when that player's failing. So always keep that in mind. And again, whether that's on the field or for anything you're doing, people do notice. People are looking and watching all the time, and how you act and perform when you don't know someone's watching is a better reflection of who you are than when you know someone's watching and you're putting on a performance per se.
Yeah, the mindset is a really important element that oftentimes doesn't get enough attention. And to your point, attitude plus effort equals results. And so when you have a positive attitude and you're putting in the work ethic, that combination, that sauce, is going to result to results, positive results typically. And so I want to mention that. And then also, there are two types of people. There are those that say this happened to me, and there are those that say this happened by me. And which person do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that it's like, oh, this, if this wouldn't have happened to me, like I would have done it differently. But if you change that mindset and say this happened by me, you really take ownership in what you do and who you are. You want to be the person that says this is happening by me.
And that's one of those things where, I've had situations where, players for whatever reason struggled and they didn't have the grades to play high school. And there was one player that I asked, hey, what's going on? What happened? And the response was, oh, the teacher doesn't like me. And right when you say that, that's not taking any accountability or responsibility for what the role you played in the grades that you got, And then I had another player say, Coach, I'm just really struggling with this. What do I need? And so when a player says they're struggling, how can I, how can you help me, and ask for help? That's the biggest thing you can do, is ask for help. Like, people want to help you. You'd be surprised how often somebody is willing to help you when you just ask. Same thing, if a hitter's struggling, there's hitters that'll say, oh, the umpire called this a ball, he called it a strike when it should have been a ball, instead of saying, hey, coach, what am I doing wrong? Or what can I do better? There's two types of mentalities to have, like Darren said, and you don't want to be the player or the student that doesn't take any responsibility and wants to blame situations or other people. You want to be someone that's just trying to get the best result possible and figuring out what to do next, not what happened to you.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And I guarantee that in your role and your leadership style, you're not making all the decisions. You're asking for help. And it's okay, no matter what level you're at, to be able to ask for help, because at the end of the day, we're all part of a team. And it really takes a team to be successful, and being open to bringing in others and asking for help, because not everyone's going to be able to read your mind. And so whether it's in the classroom or on the field, it's okay to ask for help. And so I want to throw up a question for us. David Andrews asked about some student athletes. And so he wants to know, can young student athletes get help in learning time management at the Youth Academy? Some may not know how to set up their day and week to build good habits.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is, we understand that there's athletes who want to be at the facility to hit and train and get better. But I'm a big believer that there is such a thing as too much baseball or too much softball. You have to find that balance, and your parents can certainly help you with that. But again, at the facility, like I mentioned, you just have to ask for help. There's no way for a coach to know that you're struggling with time management if you don't share that with them. We have classroom space. We do have, people that can help from a professional space standpoint with that, and help kind of map out how much time you should be allocating to school, to baseball, to your friends and family. That's something that everybody struggles with. Even, it's something that you'll have to work through your careers, not just at the high school level, but when you become a professional. One of the biggest things that I struggle with is, we like to say is work-life balance, is how much time should I dedicate to my job versus how much should I dedicate to myself and my own growth, so that I don't get burnt out. And that's the same thing for young people. You don't want to get burnt out, playing and practicing, going from one field to another field and being tired, in the morning when you wake up. You really do need to find that balance. And if you find yourself that there aren't enough hours in a day, it usually means that you're struggling with time management, not that there aren't enough hours in a day, because everybody has the same clock and everybody's working on the same schedule. It's just trying to balance and figure out what's the best way to allocate that time. And talking with the coaches, talking with people at the facility, again, sharing that even with teachers sometimes, saying, hey, I'm having trouble getting all my homework done. If you just ask for help, you will be amazed at how often people will set aside time to help someone who is struggling and ask for help. So just make sure you ask, and there'll be people that'll step up to the plate for you. No pun.
Yeah, I love it. And time management is something that I do is I agree with everything that you said. Need to have time for yourself in order that you're not getting burnt out. And that applies at the earliest ages when you're playing a sport or even in the classroom. So something that I have done is to physically write out what my goals are for the week and what my time frame is going to be spent on each day. And that element is happen at the end of each day. So if I wake up in the morning, I can able just go to that and, say, okay, here are my priorities and here's what I'm going to spend my time on. And there's a term called chunking. So you want to like chunk your time into like 50-minute increments. And it's a proven fact that our brain works best in 50-minute increments. And so for me personally, that's just how I help myself out with time management. And there's plenty good support out there to one's suggestions there. And so just make sure to ask for help. And anything that Juan or myself can help with, we're available to be able to do that. So great question, David. And thanks for asking that, and very important. Let's go on to the next question. Juan, we got from Mr. Green. What advice would you say to someone who feels discouraged because of favoritism of their administrators?
I'm going to assume that this is related to playing time, but I'm not sure. But if it is related to playing time, this is a two-part question. I'm going to answer it how you would answer it to the parent, and then how you would answer to the player. So for the parent, I would eliminate that term favoritism. I don't, outside of, say, from an administrative standpoint, for the most part, administrators and coaches want to win, and they're not going to play a player who they don't think gives them the best chance to win. So a lot of times it's not so much favoritism. It could be a misevaluation of talent, or it could be that a misevaluation of talent from the administrator, or a misevaluation of talent from the parent. So what I would say is having candid conversations and saying, hey, not why isn't my child playing, or why is this person getting more playing time than this one? Simply asking, what can my child do to get better? What are the areas that he needs to work on, or she, and phrase it and in that way, so you have a better understanding as to how the decision or why the decision is being made. And from a player standpoint, how you become the favorite. If you want to play more, you either have to play really, really great or work really, really hard to where, because again, my favorite players that I've ever coached have always been the ones that are coachable, the ones that are always going to work hard and give you maximum effort, and the ones that are just really, really great. So again, those are things that you can do. If you're discouraged, just have a candid conversation. You can just ask coach, what are the areas that I need to work on? What am I doing wrong? How can I get better? Phrasing it that way is going to get you much better results than being upset about why you're not playing. And if you're upset about why you're not playing, then you're not going to be mentally prepared for when your opportunity does come. I can't tell you how many times it's happened where I have a player who's frustrated with playing time, and that frustration is showing on the bench. And then when they get a chance, they don't do anything with that chance. If you're engaged, ready, and prepared for your opportunity, that's a great way to change the scenario. I have plenty of times where I've had players, that I view as, hey, they're a backup or a bench player, and then all of a sudden they're ready for their moment and they take someone else's spot and never give it back up. So again, I would eliminate that mentality of, oh, there's favoritism or coach doesn't like me. Sometimes it's a misevaluation of talent. I have two players at the facility at the academy who started on our 18U All-Star team as 16-year-olds, and one of them could not get playing time on his high school team, and the other one they have playing the outfield when he is probably the best catcher at our facility. And some people would say, oh, it's favoritism. I don't think his high school coach is showing favoritism by not playing him at catcher. I think he just is misevaluating the talent. I think if he realized how good he was at playing catcher, he'd play him at catcher. So I would really just get rid of that mentality of, again, that's part of the woe is me mentality of, oh, he just likes this player better. I would get rid of that and just figure out a more positive way to get better, to where you don't give them a chance to sit you. Again, if you force the issue, no one's going to sit the player that goes 4 for 4. Never seen it happen unless they have a bad attitude.
Nope. Yeah, that's a secret for success right there. You know, if you're going to be able to communication, kind of bringing it full circle to what you were mentioning at the very beginning. If you can have that clearing conversation and communicate, you know, where are the areas of growth? What can I do to be better? That's going to be incredible advice, and it's going to turn a situation from being really negative to positive, just because you're going to be able to have all the context and the areas of where you can grow. So I think that's great advice.
And what I mentioned earlier about things that people say about you and what separates elite athletes, when I mentioned about being a good teammate, it's very easy to be a good teammate when you're the starting shortstop and hitting third. It's much harder to be a good teammate when you're not starting and waiting for your opportunity. I've learned a lot about players who went from starters to bench players. Some have accepted the role and realized they have to get better and have been good teammates and supportive. Others have not, and you see a big change in their demeanor and their attitude, and that's a big red flag for a college coach, because just because you're the best high school player on your team does not mean that you're going to start as a freshman in college, and they need to know what kind of teammate and player they're going to be getting, and that will affect how, you know, an administrator or a coach recommends or speaks of you to other higher level coaches.
Awesome. Well, there is one other question, and I'm not sure if this is something that we're going to have the answers to, but who are the engineers that made this academy?
Sure. And again, like I mentioned, how we work with different partners, there are things that people at the Rangers can handle internally, but for larger projects, and this is one of the cool things about working in sports, you get to interact and work with a lot of different companies and organizations. We'll outsource, you know, projects to someone who's more specialized than us. So again, this building was actually built prior to my arrival here, but people, you know, smarter than me got together and were able to make it happen based on the specifications of what it was that we needed. And at the same time, even if you work outside of sports, there are still going to be some avenues where you can work with professional teams and sports teams. So you could be somebody who works for, you know, an engineering firm but specializes in, you know, stadium builds and field renovations and things like that, to where you can still have that close touch point with professional sports. And that's one of the things that's really exciting about, you know, just different careers and jobs in general. There's so many different ways that you can stay a part of the game and a part of the sport without just playing and coaching. Just about any job that anybody else has, there's that version of it for a professional team.
Yeah. Plenty of opportunities out there to work in sports, and the facility is amazing. As I mentioned at the beginning, one of the best youth academies in the country, and whatever mechanical engineer designed it and built it, kudos. And we talked a little bit about mechanical engineering a couple of days ago on our other virtual field trip, and it's really about the structural design. And Globe Life Park is brand new. I mean, you're there right now. Can you tell us a little bit about like what it's like and what are some cool areas in the ballpark?
Yeah, here at Globe Life Field, it's again, it's one of those situations where it's state of the art. It's really just a special facility where, you know, there was some hesitation from players who weren't necessarily thrilled about the idea of playing on turf, but have since come all the way around and really love it, the way it plays. So we have an all turf field here at Globe Life Field, and then some of the unique areas that I think are just super cool, having visited a number of ballparks around the country, is the suite levels that we have on the first level, where you can either be inside or step out and be, again, almost in the crowd because it's not covered all the way out. It's almost like a patio deck. I thought it was, again, really, really nice and something that is a unique touch. And then again, where it's placed directly next door to Texas Live, where you can go get some food, have some fun with the family, and then come over and just walk over to the baseball game, really makes for a full, family day experience where you can come on a Saturday at noon and just spend the whole day at either, the facility or Texas Live right next door. But again, the biggest thing is when you're outside here at the Academy and it's 107 degrees, you couldn't give me tickets free to watch a baseball game in 107 degrees in the old ballpark, Globe Life Park. But now Globe Life Field, it'll be a lovely 72 degrees indoors on a Sunday afternoon when it's 107 outside. So again, I think the biggest amenity and something that you're seeing across baseball now is the retractable roof, ballpark. I think anybody who builds one now without a roof is making an egregious mistake. Both from a heat and inclement weather standpoint. It's important to give fans the best possible experience. And I think you can do that with a roof and not necessarily without one, because you cannot control the elements. We haven't quite figured that one out yet.
Yeah, I worked for the Arizona Diamondbacks, and that was always a challenge within the grass, because certain areas on the field would not get sunshine. So they'd bring out those massive lights and
grow lamps.
Yep. 2 years ago, they switched over to turf, and all the players are loving it now. So
yeah, Miami did the same thing. Miami started with natural grass, and then because of some of the shadows, they had to bring grow lamps, and eventually they just pivoted and switched to turf.
Well, the students that are participating in your camp are going to Globe Life Field next Thursday for a field trip, and they've been working on some projects, and hopefully you can swing by and check out what some of the innovations are that they've been coming up with. And so kind of in closing, just wanted to say thank you and appreciate you spending some time with us to be able to talk about secrets of success, basically, and a lot of like positive mindset elements, in addition to just hearing your background and your work experience and how you've gotten to where you are and the programs that the Academy is able to offer. So thank you for being able to join us.
Darren, can I say one last thing in closing to the group? The biggest takeaway that I can give the young people and the student athletes is when you are looking at a job or you're given a task, treat it like it's the most important thing you've ever done. People do notice that, and then be willing to do the things that other people aren't willing to do. Again, even after I graduated college, I was doing jobs that other people would be like, oh, I didn't go to college to do this, I'm not going to do that. Whereas I viewed it as I want to be the best person at filling the water cooler. I want to make the best gift packs for this foundation organization. And fun fact, even when I was not hired full-time and was looking for jobs, I'd interned for the Rays in their fan experience and marketing department. And then a year later, they called me and said, hey, we know you don't have experience with this, but we would like for you to audition for a specific role within the club. And I said, what's that? They had me audition to be the mascot. And I was very close to being the official mascot of the Rays. And some people would be like, Juan, why would you even consider that? And I'm like, because you know what? You don't know if you want to do something or can do something until you try it. And so I gave it a shot and was almost a professional mascot. Some people would have just turned it down right away, but I was open to trying anything. So if something's important to you and you want to work in a specific field, you don't get to go right to the top. You have to take a lot of small steps along the way. And I always tell people it's a slow climb to the middle, not to the top. It's a slow climb just to get to the middle. And you have to be willing to put in the work with whatever it is that you want to do. So that's all I had. And again, I appreciate you, Darren, having me on and giving me an opportunity to share and speak with the different athletes across the academies.
Who would have thought we both have worn mascots during our time working in sports? So I love that. Learn something new every day. And again, thank you so much, Juan, for taking the time to talk to everyone. And that is all for today's Science of Sport virtual field trip. Thank you all for joining.
Bye.